Hello, good afternoon, and today I'm going to review the new album from AC/DC. I couldn't quite believe it myself, but it's been 39 years since I bought an AC/DC album. And the last one I bought was this, last proper album I bought, 1981, which was a disappointment to me on release musically, but it's a pretty cool cover with the Canon and some good moments like Evil Walks and COD on there. And then I did pick up the Iron Man 2 soundtrack, mainly because Cold Hearted Man was on here, which for some odd reason has not been on the CD re-releases of Power Ridge. But other than that, this is a kind of compilation, and I don't play it very much. But anyway, saw this new album, and ummed and ahed about it for a bit, and then decided to pick it up. It was only 15 quid for a new album, which I think is quite well priced. A lot of albums are more expensive these days, and nice packaging. Can't really see the band there in the dark. This is the Gatefold. And one of the things which tempted me to get this album was the return of Brian Johnson. He'd had problems with his voice a few years ago and had to give up touring, and then they brought in Axl Rose, which I thought was a bit of a misfit. And Phil Rudd had got into some financial trouble, and Cliff Williams had retired, but they both make a comeback on here, and Angus is here, of course, and the only one missing from the Back in Black lineup would be Malcolm Young, who passed away more or less exactly 3 years ago, November 2017. But they've got his nephew Stephen Young on guitar, so about as close as you can get to the AC/DC sound. And as I was listening to it, maybe the songs are not as strong as Back in Black, but the overall sound is uncannily similar. I mean, they've recreated it almost to a T. This one is for Mal. It says there, pictures of the band, the credits, and for some reason the backing vocals are not credited, because you can hear quite a few kind of trademark AC/DC backing vocals, but they're not credited. I guess it's Phil Rudd and Cliff Williams. I'm not sure about Stephen Young, whether he sings backing vocals, but it's quite a noticeable feature of this album. So what have I got to say about it? I think it's fair to say there's no cast iron all-time AC/DC classics. Like, there's no Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, there's no Shot Down in Flames, there's no Touch Too Much, there's no Shoot to Thrill. But, you know, it's a pretty consistent album, and there's something quite comforting about having this lineup still intact, or more or less intact, without Malcolm, of course. And some good trademark riffs from AC/DC. They do riffs very well. The last track on side 2, Code Red, is pretty reminiscent of Back in Black, the title track from the 1980 album. And it starts off with the song called Realize, which is, you know, I tried to crank it up loud, but it wasn't really doing too much for me, that opening track. And the second track, musically, is quite decent and powerful. Lyrically, it's pretty awful. But then AC/DC never were known particularly for their lyrics, and there's probably a reason why they don't include the lyric sheet in their albums. Shot in the Dark was the single, and as I say, with the trademark backing vocals. It's okay. It's nothing particularly memorable, but it's quite good if you crank it up loud. But the words leave a bit to be desired. A shot in the park beats a walk. A shot in the dark beats a walk in the park. Through the Mist of Time is quite a good rocker. I mean, it's difficult to remember individual tracks because they kind of all meld together, but they're quite good when you listen to them. Not particularly memorable in terms of melody or riff. More important to say riff than melody for AC/DC. Kick You When You're Down is decent. Witch's Spell is good. Demon Fire opens side 2 pretty powerfully. Wild Reputation is probably a favourite of mine, with good vocals from Brian. No Man's Land, Systems Down, Money Shot, all decent. Code Red is probably another highlight for me. What I liked about this album is the lack of hype building up to its release. In fact, I have to thank you, James Boyce, for telling me about it, because I wasn't even aware that they were having a new album coming out. And so you told me about that, thanks. And so I think it's quite, as I say, quite comforting to have this in 2020 and 40 years since their classic Back in Black. They obviously had hits after that, like Thunderstruck, but for me, Back in Black was probably their last great album, although I haven't really taken the time to listen to Blow Up Your Video or Fly on the Wall or Guns for Hire or Ball Breaker. Any of them really. I kind of tuned out after For Those About to Rock because I thought they were... And having said that, there's no... On For Those About to Rock, for example, there's a few ones which really don't do anything for me, like the title track For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. I mean, it's a good title and good cover, but what does it mean? And then maybe, sorry, it was on the Back in Black album, Let Me Put My Love Into You and Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. Those two songs particularly weak for me, and I don't think they do these slow rockers very well, but there's no slow numbers on here. They're all upbeat rockers, and I think that suits the AC/DC style more. So yeah, I think I've said I'm glad they're still going, and I wouldn't mind seeing them in concert, but every time they announce a gig, it seems to sell out within 5 minutes. Maybe they've got another tour left in them. One hopes so. Although, if I'm honest, my favourite AC/DC era is the Bon Scott era. I think it's stronger riff-wise, and the lyrics have got more humour in them and stronger in general. But they did some good stuff after Bon died, and they did well to keep going, and they're still an immensely popular band, as is evidenced by how many copies were in the local shop here in Budapest of their new album, because some albums they don't even bother shipping to Hungary, but AC/DC there were like 6 or 7 of the CD, 5 or 6 of the vinyl, plus the CD box version. So that's an indication of how popular they are internationally. So that was that, AC/DC's new album, Power Up. Thank you for watching. See you next time.